Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, dear students. I am Mr. Kadim Khan and I am a lecturer in the Institute of Computing, Kuwait University of Science and Technology. Today we will take lecture number 20 of the subject of software quality engineering, in which we are going to discuss the automated JUnit software test. Dear students, this lecture is very much important because this lecture will give you the practical insight into the automated way of JUnit testing. So far, we have discussed the manual or the theoretical techniques of software testings. But here, we will use the Eclipse IDE for performing the automated JUnit test. This is the discussion agenda. It contains different topics. It includes types of unit testing. Here, we will discuss different types of unit testing. Then we will discuss the JUnit, which is the automated test of in Java language of unit testing. Then will discuss different automation annotation used for JUnit testing. And then we have the asserts class, which is very much important class, which provides about the success or failure of the test. Then we have the required jar files that will be used for the JUnit testing. Then is the sample JUnit examples in the Eclipse IDE. Here you will see that first of all we need to write the program logic, then we will write the test cases, and then we will write the correct program logic. Here first of all we will write the wrong program logic, and then the test case will identify the error in the program, and then we will correct the program, and then we will again test the softwares. And at the end we have Eclipse example of JUnit test. This will be our own example. Now, types of testing. There are mainly two different unit testing types. First of all, one is the manual testing and second one is the automated testing. In the manual testing, the software is tested based on manually execution. So without any certain tools or technology, just we provides the input to the software and the software provides the output. Then we analysis that output and then we says that this whether this output is accepted or not. This is known as the manual testing. This is time consuming and less reliable because here just human logic is used to test the software. While automated test is a certain test where we use different tools for performing the test. It is also known as the automated testing. It is a fast and more reliable test here. So the test here is very much fast. That means which is very much efficient, and also it is very much reliable. That is the correct results are in fact provided by the test because we are using here certain automated tools. Now what is the JUnit test? Basically JUnit, as its name indicates, it is a test in the Java. But it is also in open source testing because Java is the open source library language. And it is used for Java developers to write and runs repeatable tests. So here we just writes and then runs the repeatable test using the JUnit. JUnit was first introduced by Eric Gamma and Kent Beck, and initially they have developed that and used that test. It is instances of XUnit's architecture. So basically XUnit is in effect a unit software development architecture which is the provides the instance of the JUnits here. So as its name says that unit test, it is a unit test for a small chunk of code. So here we just test a small piece of code here. So once we have done with this piece of code, then we perform all sort of test and then we test that whether it should be a passed test or failed. So every time any code is added here, then you need to re-execute all the test cases and make sure that something is not happening worse. So if there is certain problems, then we have to eliminate that problem and we need to rewrite re-execute the test. So basically this is the one of the testing frameworks, and the current version is Java Unit 4 testing framework. There are different annotations used for the JUnit testings. Here you can see there are few annotations here. Basically, JUnit 4.0 framework is the annotation based. So here we will use certain annotation, and these annotations are in fact certain functions which provides us different values. Here these annotations are used for writing the test cases. The first annotation is @test, and this annotation in fact annotates specific that the method is test methods. So here it will shows that this method is a test methods. We are going to test this method or this function. Then test timeout is equal to 1000. Here you can see there is the integer value of the timeout in this function test. It specifies that 1 seconds is required for the testing. That means that 1000 is in fact the values of the milliseconds here. It represents 1 seconds. If it takes more times, that means that annotation specifies that the method will be failed if it takes longer than 1000 milliseconds. If it takes longer than 1000, that means that this test is in fact failed. Before class annotation specifies that the method will be invoked only once before starting all the classes. So it means that when all the started class, this method will be invoked. That means that method will be called only one time. Iterate before. This annotation specifies that the method will be called before each test. So before each test, this particular method or function will be called here. Then after annotation specifies that the method will be invoked after each test. So after each and every test, if this method will be called, that means that after annotation that will specifies that the method will be invoked after each test. Then after class, this annotation in fact it specifies that the method will be invoked only once after finishing all the tests. So once all the finish has been tested, after class annotation will be called here. There are another important annotation here, that is the assert class. Assert is in fact a class in the JUnit test which is in the org.gunit.asserts. This package provides the asserts class, and there are certain useful methods of the asserts class which perform the JUnit test. So these methods are very much important here. First one is word asserts equal and boolean expected boolean actual. This function, that is the assert equals functions, it provides that whether this value is equal to the actual value, that is expected values is equal to the actual value, and both are of the boolean type. So it checks that two primitives objects are equal, and it is then overloaded. Second one is the assert true boolean condition. You can see there is just one parameter here. This assert true function checks that the condition is true. That means that if the condition is true, then we will provide that it is true. Similarly, which is assert false is the opposite of assert true function. Assert false function says that it checks that the condition is false here. Then word asserts null object obj. It checks that the object is null. If the object is null, that means object is empty or not available, then assert null object obj will be called here. Then we have word asserts not null object obj. It checks that the object is not null. Here it will check that the object should not null. Now, dear students, you requires jar files to execute the test. So you need GUnit4.jars and homecust.core.jar files. Basically, this file is very much important. You can download these files from this link here. You just copy this link and paste it onto your web browser to download the jar files. Now, how we can perform the GUnit test in the Eclipse IDE? First of all, we have to create a project. For example, GUnit for exe, that is example 4. Here GUnit 4 is in fact our GUnit 4 version and examples we are creating, and then we need to create a files or a project with a calculation.java class. This will perform the calculations. Also we need testlogic.java. So testlogic.java contains different sort of the testing here, so test cases here, and it contains our actual code or the logic here. Okay, this is the class which we want to test in the GUnit. So here you can see package com.javapoint.logic. This is the com package. It will be in fact created by the project when we create the class. So if you are using the Eclipse, you do not have need to type this. Just directly type from the public class calculation. This is our calculation class, and the body of the calculation class is starting from here. Then we have variable static int find max int arrays. This is the function which is a public function, and it is a static, and return type of this function is integer. It will find the maximum value in the array, and array is in fact integer array, and we will pass it as a parameter to this function. Then the body of the function is starting here, int max is equal to 0. That means that here first we have declared maximum is equal to 0. So that means that maximum value is 0. So which is in fact the error here. We should have to, maximum should be first value of the array. Here should be a double r, then the brackets, that is the square bracket, and 0, which represents the first value in the array. For int I is equal to 1 to I is less than array dot length and I plus plus. So here the loop will in fact will access each and every value in the array here. So the loop should start from 1 to the size up to the size of the arrays, say I plus plus. If maximum is less than array I, that means if the maximum value is less than array, then the maximum is equal to array I. So it will in fact calculate the maximum values here. Then return max, return value will be in fact the integer value which is represent the maximum value in that particular array. Now after writing our code, then we also need to write the asserts logics here. So here it will be the asserts in fact annotation used for the assert function, which will create the test cases here. So first of all, we require import static org.gunit.assert.statics. So this is our import packages. Also here are our import packages. Then we import org.gunit.test. This is the gunit test. It is all the package here, which is in fact created by the program itself. Then we have public class test logic. Test logic is in fact our class which contains the test cases. Next we have a public void test find max. So test find max is a function which we must have to create, while in the function body we need to write the asserts equals annotations are functions here, and these functions are in fact used to define the test cases. Asserts 4 should be the in fact the expected results of the test, and calculation is a class which is in fact the object here dot find max. So calculation is a class here. I will go back. There you can see this is the calculation class, and to the calculation class then we need to access the function of the calculation class, which is the find max. Find max new int, and there is the arrays 1 3 4 2. It will returns 4. That means that if this array is passed, it should return the 4. So this is in fact the expected results, and this is the actual in fact the value of this function test find max. Then if we provide -1, and if the array is this one, then in fact you can see that -1 is a minimum, not a minimum value in this arrays, but it is the maximum value in the array, while the minimum is -12. So this test case should return the false values. That means that in fact this test cases will identify the error, because the maximum is not -1, maximum is -12. Now when we run the test cases, you can see that this output will be displayed. Here this red bar represents that the test has identified certain error in the program. So means that there is failure 1. So this shows that the test cases identified certain problem. So here are the assertion errors. That means that in this statement there is certain error. How you will run this test case is just click on the run as unit test and then click on that green buttons, and then you will see that when we pass the negative values, that was -1, it throws the assertion errors because second time find maximum method return 0 instead of -1. So it means that our program logic is incorrect. Now to correct the logic, we will go back to our program, and then you can see that here it should be maximum is equal to array 0, not just 0. So error 0 instead of 0 should be passed here. So for int I is equal to 1, I is less than array dot length I plus plus. If maximum is equal to array, maximum is equal to array max. So that will return the maximum value. When you will recorrect your code and you again will run the test cases, now you will see the green bar here. It shows that there is the zero failure here. So it will give you the correct output. Now, dear students, we will go to the Eclipse IDE. Here I will execute my own test. So just click on the escape button. Here you can see I clicked on the escape button. So I need to go to the desktops. So for example, there is the desktop. From the desktop, I will start the Eclipse. Now, meanwhile, the Eclipse IDE is running here. I have 2020 version of the Eclipse IDE. So I need to create a project here. And after creating the project, then I also need to create the test cases for using the asserts equal annotation or function of the test cases. Now, you will see that the Eclipse IDE is in fact running. So first of all, I will go click on new file, click on new. I'm here in fact creating a new project for you. So create the new project here. For example, my project should be, for example, let like calculation project. It will perform certain mathematical calculation. Click on next. After clicking next, you will see that the project created the package here for me. Just click on finish. When you will click on finish, then you will see that the project has created a um, certain packages are for me. You can see that here in the package explorer, calculation project has been created, but there is just a package here. There is no certain class here. So right click on the package, go to new and create a class here. So here I should type the name of the class here. For example, the name of the class is math class, and click on the finish. When you click on the finish, the math class is in fact appeared here. So here I need to write some functions which will perform the mathematical operation. For example, int, uh, int uh, public that public int sum. This is the sum function. Sum. So this is one of my functions, that is sum. Sum function will take different parameters of int a comma int b. So it will take two different parameters. Then I have the return statement, return a plus b and semicolon. And similarly, I have another function public int uh, sub. Sub function will perform the subtraction. It will also take two parameters, for example, int a comma int b. Int a, int b. Then I will create its body, and then it will return 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 a minus b. So it will perform this subtraction here. Similarly, I can also perform another operation. For example, I can copy this code as well, and I can paste it here. So this should be, for example, product function, product, and it will multiply two values, a cross b. Now our class has been completed. This is our math class. Remember that this is the math class. Now click on file menu, go to new, click on file menu, go to new, and click on unit testing. So here is the JUnit test case. Click here. When you click this JUnit test, you can see that there is the math class test. Its name is automatically math class test because we are creating JUnit test here in the math class. So I'm fine with this name, math class test. Next, click on next. When you click on next, you will automatically see three functions here: sum, sub, and product. Sum is the function that we have implemented here. Similarly, sub function which perform the subtraction, and the last function which perform the product, that is multiplication. So I need to assert statement for these three functions. So just I click this checkbox here that I need to test these three functions. So just click on finish, and now it will say, the system says that JUnit 4 is not on the build path. Do you want to build to add it? No, because this library will be automatically added here in this folder. So I will say yes, okay, add this. You can see that JUnit 4 is added here. And similarly, test sum, test sub, test products, three different functions are created in the math class test cases class. So here I will delete these statements. So because I need to write my own statements, that means that if the test fails, so you need to implement this. So that's why I have deleted these three statements. So now I also need to in fact write the test cases for these functions here. First function is the sum, second one is the subtraction, and third one is the product. So I also need to write my test cases here in these functions. So first of all, I will declare the math class object here. Math class for example, m is equal to new math class. This is the objects which I have declared here. This object is the, in fact, the object of this maths class. Now there is the function which is the sum function in the math class. So int sum s is equal to m dot sum. Here I will pass two values. For example, the sum of 10 and 20. 10 and 20 is 30. So here I have declared one test cases that the sum will be in fact called, which is the function in the math class, and the value will be assigned to s. Now here I will write that assert equal. The assert equals libraries will be in fact right here. I will write here assert equal function will be written here. So assert equal expected and actual. Expected is in fact 30, and actual will be in fact values which will be called from that math class here, which is in fact here the s value. So here I will just write the s values. So our first test cases has been completed. Similarly, also I will write the test cases for this function as well. The math class, for example, m. Here, for example, I can write different names here. For example, that is n is equal to new math class. Here I have declared the objects here. Then int subtraction. Here we are performing subtraction. So just I can add sb is equal to that is n dot subtraction. So I will use this. So subtraction of, for example, 10 from 8, that is means 8, 10 minus 8 subtraction will be performed here. Now I will call the assert um, equal assert equals assert equals, then the uh, that is the, it will in fact the expected results is 2 and actual result will be SB. So you can see that this is another test cases that we have completed here. Similarly, I will also write another test cases for the products here. So I can just copy this here. So just copy it and paste it here. And you need to rename something else, for example, O. And here you can write that O, that is the O dot product. O dot product. So I will dot product. So for example, I can write the product of 8 and is in fact et. And actually if there is certain problem, then this will be provided here. For example, product E, and here I will write product E, so that the proper standard is used here. For example, I need to write different names for each and every variables. Now my test cases has been completed. Now I need to run this test cases. For this purpose, just click this buttons so that you will run the test cases. So for this purpose, click on this run math class test. It says that just click here. You can see that this is the green bar. So green bar shows that the actual there is no error in the program or no error in the test cases as well. If I go back to this programs and I want to, for example, to make some mistakes here, for example, a plus b, product of a plus a and b is also a plus b, and then again I will go to this test cases. Now you can see that the product of 10 and et is et, 10 and 8 is et. Now this will give me an error. So you can see that there is now red lines. Red line shows that there is an error, and the error is in fact identified here, that this function contains an error. If I click here, you can see that the time is more than 1 second, that is 0.001. So it says that here is the error. And where is the error? The error is here in this statement. So it says that go to 26 line in your test cases, there is the error. So I will in fact trace this errors here. The error is in the product function here. So I will go in the product function. I will see that the product of two values is not a plus b. It is a multiply with b. So I will correct it again and go to again your test cases and run it again. When you run it again, you will see that now the bar becomes green. So it says that the runs 3 by 3, error is 0, failure is 0. That means there is no certain errors or failures. So that is the test, test in Java. So here we have declared our own test cases using the assert statements in the Java, and also we have written here some code, and this code is properly tested here in this class here, math class. And dear students, remember that while you are using the Eclipse, you do not need to install any GUnit libraries. That is already here in this section. So you have to follow these examples while you are performing your own GUnit test. Now we will go to our slides here again. So this is the end of the class here. So if you want to read more, you can study these two books for these topics. Also, if you have certain questions, you can ask through the email. My email is m.kadim@kust.edu.pk. I will wait for your questions and will respond immediately as soon as I get them. Thank you very much.